This is Couch to 50K. How to finish your first ultra marathon.
How we doing?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're off the couch.
Nice.
Yeah, but today I wanted to depart a little bit from what I'm doing and talk about trail running in general and running ultras and running really far. I, for a long time, had, and I guess we can call this demystifying trail running, right?
Okay.
Well,
Yep.
just get into it a little bit with somebody who's done a good bit of it, and I'll give you my perspective on how I've seen it. I thought it was a bunch of crazies doing really, really hard stuff that I could never handle. You know, like just super fit, skinny people out there in the woods going crazy. You know, and I'm like, I don't see myself ever, you know, tracking with what's going on in this sport. And I've since learned a little bit more about what's going on. But so the way I was looking at it was like, I've run in the past, run my fair share of half marathons and a couple full marathons, and it was all pretty painful, especially the race. Like running a full, I ran the Chicago Marathon, was my first one. It's completely flat for the most part. Couple little rolling hills, but it's flat. Relatively speaking, it's flat. It was awesome. Completely lined the whole city, you know, it was amazing experience, but I couldn't walk for like 3 days. It hurt. And I was even doing like a run walk kind of a thing, the old Jeff Galloway method. Maybe I shouldn't call it old. I'm sure that's still a thing. And it kind of comes into play in trail running a good bit too, actually. But, so it scared me, I think. I mean, maybe not fear, but you know, like I just didn't have interest in doing something in the world of running that was even harder than what I had already done. And I think I've come to realize that it's not necessarily harder; it's just different. I'm not trying to say it's easy. It's certainly not easier, you know, but it's different workout, right? Like on the bike and in other places, like there's workouts where you can kind of go long, low, and slow for a period of time and build endurance. And then there's interval workouts where you're doing hill repeats or high intensity interval training, right? HIIT workouts and stuff like that. So, and that's a great, it's a great approach to fitness, right? To have different types of fitness in the bank there, but it's, yeah, so that's kind of how I was coming at it, right? It was like, this is big and crazy and scary and fringe and not for me, you know? And then I started to kind of evaluate, you know, or learn a little bit, you know, by watching, when we moved to Big Bear, really, you know, had some friends running, including you, running long distances through the mountains. And like, well, I mean, they seem like normal guys. Like, how crazy is this really?
On the surface.
So talk a little bit about that. Tell me what you think. Like, what is an ultra marathon in the world of trail running, and how does it compare? You know?
Yeah. No. The number one comment is, "Wait, you ran how far? I don't even like to drive that far." You know, that's like that's the thing that everybody always says. Like, you don't even like to drive for that long. And it's funny, there is it's hard to want to slow down when you're running a road marathon. It's like, it's counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. The goal is to get to the finish line as fast as possible. And yeah, that's kind of the goal still in ultra marathon, but it's more to get to the finish line, than to get there as fast as possible. And I think that's because it's hard to get to the finish line. And one of the things that you do to do it is you slow down. You're going to walk a lot. A lot of these races are on, terrain that makes running up it almost impossible. Or, you know, I mean, if you're the top elite guy, you might be running up some of these hills, but it might be more efficient and not that much slower for that guy as well to walk. And it's not that walking's easy. Walking up a hill is still hard, especially in the middle of a big race. But it works out a little different muscles. You're not gonna get that kind of repetitive overuse, injury and feeling that you get after running the Chicago Marathon, which is like you're literally doing the same step for whatever 4 hours or however long it took you. It's just like the same stride over and over and over and over. And as soon as you get onto trails, you realize every step is different. There's rocks, your foot lands slightly different. And that really allows your body to go further. And it's kind of and obviously you can run ultra marathons on the road. People do. They run them on the track. There's 6-day track races. That dude's doing the same move for 6 days, which is absolutely insane. But when you get to that level, you're pretty established elite guy. So, or gal runner. But I think that what you were describing, that's the general consensus is like, oh my God, like that's got to be impossible. Like I don't even like to run 10 miles, and like you're going to run 50 miles through the mountains. But it's attainable, and it's a lot. I think it's a lot more attainable than people realize. I don't think you have to be any kind of elite athlete to cover these types of distances. Like it's in your head, it's really a mental game. Obviously you have to put in some work to get yourself into shape to be able to not hurt yourself and to not injure yourself. But you can convince your mind it's really powerful, and you can convince yourself to do a lot more than you might think. Also, like a lot of these ultras are in like the most beautiful places you can imagine. And so that really goes a long way. Like if I'm going to be out doing something for 8 hours, if it's in like the mountains of Ouray, Colorado, and it's like, oh, you're like constantly inspired by the visual surroundings that you're in. And so, it's rewarding. It's like it's a very beautiful sport because it's like you're in nature, you're around a whole bunch of other people that are pushing themselves, and you're doing something really hard. But at the same time, it's definitely an attainable goal for most people, I would say.
Yeah, I hear that. There are a couple of things in there that I wanted to come back to, but the beauty is a big one. And it's interesting. I've noticed myself that I said this the other day to a friend. I was like, I know I'm getting old, or maybe I'm just a dad, but I care about the weather.
Yeah.
Right? Like I never cared about the weather. I never looked at the weather. But did you see the sunset we had last night?
No, I wasn't here.
That's right. You're out of town. Dude, the sky was on fire.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have lots of beautiful sunsets
we're
here
lucky.
in Big Bear.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's often very nice, but we had these crazy clouds because there's a little bit of a storm coming in. Absolutely insane, and I find myself that I am motivated by things like that now.
Yeah.
Like it's a different thing. Whereas, in my early 20s, I probably only cared what, the hot girl or my buddy or whoever thought about how I was going to finish the race, right? Like that was what was important to me then. I don't care at all anymore, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter. I have zero effect on how this goes based on what other people think, right?
Yeah.
And it's purely for myself and to be, and all the fringe benefits that come with it of being fitter and being a better dad, being a better business partner, and being a better husband, all those things, right? Like those benefits are awesome.
Dude, I love running early in the morning or late at night, especially up here, the stars. It's so cool to be up on top of a mountain up here. And it's like, 3 in the morning and you're looking around. It's like, where the hell are we? Like, what is going on out here? And people go through their whole lives never taking in that, and to like stand there and look around at the universe, like with millions of stars, just like you can, like up here, you can see the Milky Way, like it's incredible. And, for me personally, that is like, it makes it, I don't know if it's just like you're mentally, you like I don't get as tired in those situations. Maybe afterwards I feel like I ran really far or whatever, but when I'm out and I'm in like some like surreal setting, whether it's like running through Joshua Tree and it's like sunrise and you're like, the other day I was running over to Maple Hills and the full moon, it was setting. It was like the size of the horizon, because it was gigantic, dude. I was like running at it, because you're up on Sugarloaf. It's kind of like you're up on like a little plateau in the valley, and it's like the moon was going below the horizon. It was huge. It took up like the whole field of view, and I was just thinking, like, I'm like, this is fake. Like, I felt like it's fake. I'm like, I feel like I'm in the Truman Show, because I'm like, doesn't make sense. But so the running, it's like this, just this means to have all these experiences that you might never get. And you don't have to run. You can go for a hike to get up there. You can just go out and look at this stuff. But you just happen to put yourself into all these situations because you're getting in miles and you're going for a run. And it's like at those moments, I do not feel like I'm doing work, like I'm working to run. I feel like lucky to be out there in experiencing that. And then it's not as tired. I mean, it's like mentally that's like feels good and you want to keep going. I have to like pull myself in sometimes, like, dude, you gotta go do stuff. You got kids, can't be out here constantly.
Yeah. You gotta get back to life.
Yeah. You gotta get back to real life.
Yeah. No, I feel that. That's cool.
Dude, I saw, I was at Tor de Géant in Italy, and was this monster climb. They're all monster climbs, but like, it was like, I think it was day 3, and I was like worked. Everything was screaming, and I was going up this hill, and I was just like head down, kind of in a bad place, like mentally. I've been awake for a couple days, and I looked up and I just saw like this like head, like look, I'm like, what is that? And it was an ibex. They have like, like the horns. And I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. And then like, as soon as I thought like, that's cool, I saw an ibex, like 30 heads turned, and there was like this giant herd of animals, like, 100 feet away. And then they start bounding away, and it was like, oh my God, dude. I went from, all of a sudden it was like fresh. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I feel great, and so it's pretty cool. That's a big part of it. And now, there's absolutely the mental side of the game where it's like, I'm going to run an ultra around a track. I'm going to run an ultra on a road. I'm going to do this thing that it's not visually appealing. That's, but for a lot of people, and for the most part, a lot of these races are in beautiful places. They're in the forest, they're in the mountains, they're in the desert. And you're out there for so long that you get to experience these things that you might never ever have the chance to do if you don't put yourself in that position. So I think that's part of what makes it attainable for people, is like, it's so rewarding that you overcome the physical challenges because you're having these great experiences, and it's more than just the physical, like, I'm going to run this many miles,
Yep. Yeah. That's cool. There's something very primal about it too, I think, right? It's you're just out there in nature. I mean, yeah, there's usually a trail, not always, you know, sometimes you're just out there in the woods, taking off. And yeah, maybe you've got some nutrition or a gel and you've probably got some running shoes on your feet. Not everybody, right? I mean, there's people
Jason
doing it all different
Pecoraro,
ways.
dude.
Yeah, we
Barefoot in a skirt.
you're just out there doing it. You gotta go, right? But there's even if you're taking advantage of all the technology that's available, and you take off into the woods, you're still in the woods, right?
And I do, the primal thing is a great way to look at it. Like two notes on that. One, I did hear, and I obviously I'm not a scientist, but I did hear that like the runner's high, like where that kind of comes from, one theory, I guess, is that, you know, when we were hunter gatherers, our means of hunting was by wearing down the game. So like we would stalk like the woolly mammoth, you know, we would follow it until it gave up. And so the longer you're out there, the more like the closer you're getting to eating. And so that's like the primal reason for the runner's high, which that could be, you know, complete baloney.
That's cool. I like it.
But I like it. But my first 100 mile, I have a distinct memory. It was Chimera 100 mile down in Cleveland National Forest. And I remember being at like middle of the day, and all of a sudden it just clicked in my head. It's like it came, the thought was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like, this is what your body is made for. Like, you're just, you feel like that's what it's supposed to do. And it's like, it's built to do this. Like, you can just, you know, we stand upright, we go, it's like, it's crazy. Like, you're out there, you can just go and go and go, and you're just running. And it's like, holy shit, like, this is what my body, like, I feel good, even though I'm exhausted and I'm tired, my legs hurt. Like, I feel like this is what my body would love to do. I don't know if I ever get that feeling like on the couch. It might be comfortable, like sitting on the couch and watching TV is enjoyable, but there's never a thought that pops into my head that's like, oh yeah, man, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You know, you were made to sit here. I think the big point, and I think where you were going with this idea of demystifying trail running, is that just because it's like further than a marathon, it doesn't mean that you have to be an elite marathoner to make the jump. It's,
Yep.
you know, and you'll see when you go out there, it's, you know, 90% non-elite runners. You know, it's, there's a huge contingent of people that come into the sport from like through hiking and hiking in general. So there's just like it's a common, it's a really, it's like a common man's, you know, effort. It's pretty cool. It's like there is a challenge. It's very difficult physically, but your mentality can help you overcome that a lot more than you would think. Like, you don't necessarily need to be a runner, like in the sense of that most people would think, to do an ultra marathon. Like, you can hike them. A lot of people hike ultra marathons. Like, they will hike 90% of the race, and they're the back of the packers, right? It's gonna take you a long time to do it, but you know, it's like at the very back of the pack, the dude's walking the whole way. At the front, the guy's running the whole way, and then there's just this blend in the middle of like, most people are walking up a hill. When they get to the top, they're running down the hill. And then when it's flat, they're doing what they can. At the beginning, they're probably running. At the end, they might be walking because it's hard, you know? But it's not a thing where it's like, oh, I have to be a fast runner in order to complete an ultra marathon. It's like, no, you gotta be stubborn. You know, you gotta be stubborn, and you gotta want to do something. That's about it, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to the idea of running being what we were made to do. I think that's really interesting. And I'm also glad that you brought up the couch. We haven't really talked too much about what's going on there for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I don't enjoy time on the couch unless
Yeah.
I just finished something hard.
Dude, makes the
Right?
couch so
Yeah.
nice, dude.
Yeah. We're like, okay, I just put in 6 hard days of everything. Okay, it's Sunday. Let's chill, right? And throw on whatever, hang out with the kids, watch some TV. That like then it feels good because then it's earned, I
Absolutely.
think. But even that expires, man. I can't do a full day on the couch.
No,
It's like-
yeah, I know. It's really interesting that how much time people, and myself included, at certain points in life spend not moving, and it adds up. Like it gets harder to move, like as you sit on the couch more, and you get sucked in, especially now with phones. And like you could be like sitting on the couch watching TV with your laptop open and your phone. I heard somebody say like nowadays the goal is to see how many screens you can get in between you and your face. You know, it's like,
Yeah, right.
it's like I got the TV going, I got my computer open, I got the iPad, and I got my phone, and I'm just like, what the, you know, now I'm putting on goggles that it's like, and you can really get sucked into that. And yeah, absolutely rewarding to lay on the couch and watch a really cool movie after, if you've earned it, you know.
Yeah.
At least for me personally, it's definitely, like you mentioned, if you've earned it, it's definitely it's rewarding.
Mhm.
Like nothing like a beer after a run.
Sure.
So much better.
Yep.
Like a beer after a run, it feels so. And I'm sure that's a bike ride or any type of skiing, where you exert yourself, and then afterwards, it's like, I'm gonna sit on the couch and drink a beer, and this feels amazing. But like, you just wake up and go sit on the couch and drink a beer, you're a degenerate. You know, it's not quite the same. Not quite the same. So
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I think if you want to like put this into practice, like how, you know, it's easy to sit here and say like, oh, anybody can go run 100 miles, you know. Just, it's like you're doing that this month. You're like starting to put into practice by getting off the couch, like as that is being your goal. Like take some of those opportunities to like go into the woods, you know, and just like jog, you know, just briefly on the trail. Like, oh yeah, it's not, you know, it's nothing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you figure out how to like enjoy running slower. I mean, that's the biggest thing. That's like, that's going to be the biggest thing. My number one piece of advice is like, oh, you want to run an ultra marathon? Slow down. Like you got to slow down. Like most running is, I'm going to run as fast as I can until I can't run anymore. And that might be a mile. It could be 5K. But if you just don't exert, if you pull it back to 60% effort, like that distance goes through the roof. And if you, you know, like I mentioned, if you start your run with a walk and then you start running a little bit, and then in the middle of your run, like I'm going to walk, and then you're going to run a little bit, and then at the end, you're going to walk, you'll find that you can go way further than you would have been if you were just like, all right, I'm going out for a run. And you just go out and start hitting your like 90% effort, you know, and your heart rate spikes, and you're going to be done, and you're going to be tired, and your body's going to be like, no more. And if you just slow down a little bit and don't have that same like, oh, I got a PR every time I, you know, go for a run, which is a lot of like the road running mindset. It's like constant speed as the gauge of your like ability. Like you're always wanting to run faster. That's like that's the goal. I mean, it's a race. That's the goal.
Yeah.
But when you get the ultra like that, the way it's attainable to everybody is you just slow down. You slow down and you try to get to the finish as the goal instead of trying to increase your speed.
Yeah, that is a tendency that even when I was doing more road running, I would have to fight, right? Which is, I'm going to go do 4 miles. So how fast did I do it last week?
Yeah.
I got to do it faster than that.
Yep.
Right. And then it becomes almost every workout, unless you're very deliberately saying, no, this is long and slow base run, right? Or we're doing sprints or something like otherwise, like I'm running 5 miles. How fast can I run 5 miles? It's almost like every workout is a race. And that'll beat you up, right? That hurts.
Well, and let's be honest, dude, we're getting old or older. I don't know if we're old yet, but we're getting there, and you're past your physical prime. Like, and so I'm not saying you can't run faster. You can't train yourself to run. You absolutely probably still could, but not forever.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely not going to increase your speed over the course of your life. You're probably fastest when you're like, 16, 17, and then it's just all it starts going down. But that's what's cool about ultras. It's like you're not really in it to go faster for the most part. I mean, obviously there's some races, they're called races, and people are trying to win them. But for most people, you're trying to get to a finish line. The goal is to conquer a challenge, to live a lifestyle that allows you to do it. And it's rewarding, and you'll appreciate the task of running further, just like you would appreciate getting faster. So it's not like it's all lost. It's not like, oh, now I'm a slow old man. It's like, it's still hard to go far. There's still a challenge there. You're not just gonna like slow down and then it's like, oh, it's so easy to run for it. It's still it's still hard. It's just an attainable challenge, where it's like, I'm not going to go out and start training for the 800 and, get a faster lap on the track. Like, that's just not available anymore. So
like, if we're talking about demystifying ultra marathons specifically, I think part of it for me was that it just seemed infinitely harder than a marathon, which is always already very hard, right? But I think the reality is, like, yeah, it's farther and it's different and it is hard, but you can slow down, right? It doesn't have to be like a 10x road marathon. It can be. There's people out there racing it that hard, and good on them, right?
Yeah, there's some badass people out there, dude. Like, crazy.
Oh no, it's
insane.
Now that I've kind of gotten into it, started paying attention to these races and watching people dropping like 6-minute miles for 100 miles, 100K.
Yeah, it's nutty,
it's insane.
Dude. I know.
Like that's faster than I ever could have attempted to run even a 10K, and
it's cool. It's really cool to see because, while the whole thing that we're talking about, slowing down and walking on hills and stuff, is how it's attainable, there is also like a sharp end of the culture, which is incredible to watch, because it's like the incredible athletes now are coming up with ultra running being a thing. And so they're working on it at younger ages. I mean, it used to be like an old man's sport. Like, it was like you had to be old to do it. Mm-hmm. And since it's mental, a lot of it is mental. That's kind of, older people tend to have more, they're depressed. They got to go run, it's like you got more shit in your head that you're trying to work out. So you're out there and you're stronger mentally because you've gone through some of life's challenges, right? Young kids don't, they don't really have that. But now that there's a sport attached to it, younger, faster people are getting involved, and that's what we're seeing, like some incredible times at like the very pointy end of ultra running, which is really pretty cool to watch.
It is cool. Yeah, it's pretty wild, because you used to only see that like on the track, or in the world of running, it was all about the Olympic sports,
for sure,
right? And what happens on the track, or maybe the 10K, I guess they had road marathons too,
marathon, right?
Yeah.
But 10K, and on that note, one of the cool things, and we've already touched on it a couple times, but the community is still like super cool. Even like the super fast, like pointy end of the ultra marathon field seems to recognize the challenge to get to the finish line, and so it still has this kind of like low key, non-competitive vibe, even though it's obviously competitive for people. It's still very welcoming, and it's still a really cool sport, to be a part of.
Yeah. You still see, number second place, third place, high five in the winner.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
oh yeah. Totally.
you don't see that in a lot of sports. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
should have been me, but very supportive. I think that's really cool.
Couch to 50K is an Elevated SoCal project. All rights reserved.